Hello everybody, karibu sana. Today I have a cold, so you will try as much as possible to hear what I'm saying, and I'll try to be as clear as possible. Karibuni sana. My name is Lucy. I work at Janta. Janta helps businesses grow. We try and help you turn around your business if you're already running well, to expand so that you're able to run your business with or without your presence. So karibuni sana. Today we'll be talking about employees, and specifically for those employers who struggle with managing relationships with employees. And today we're not talking about the ones who struggle with being nasty, or who are tough employers, or you're struggling with trying to find a balance. We're talking about those ones who are sat on by their employees. You're over pleasing them. They ask for things that you cannot afford, and you're giving them because you don't know how. Or you have employees who you feel like are very critical for your operations, but you still struggle to make ends meet, or you're just struggling to figure out how best to keep the employee without overrunning your costs. So this is for you if you have employees, or if you have a business and you're planning to hire soon, or you just want to understand how best to manage your team while treating them fairly, but also not going overboard, so that you're still ensuring that you're profitable. Okay, karibuni sana. We can just dive into it. So let's understand, what is employee pleasing. It's like people pleasing in terms of behavior. I don't know if you're one of those people. I am a people pleaser, by the way. I struggle with this. I think that's why I'm an expert in this topic. I really struggle with acceptance. I think this is something that can either be diagnosed for you, or you could learn from the people around you. But if you struggle to telling people no, or you find yourself overly doing things just to make people happy, you could easily become an employee pleaser when you run a company or you run a business. So you will find yourself bending over backwards to meet employee needs, but then the business is struggling at the end of the day. I'll give you a short story. When maybe about, I would say 7 years ago, we were running Janta, and we were really hitting tough times. We had clients, we were doing work, but they were not paying on time. Either maybe due to economic issues, or because we were not very strict with payments, but there was a lot of money outstanding, so our bills were running very high. I had a very huge team. I struggled with scaling down. I just didn't let go of people quick enough. I had a lot of employees who were performing subpar, and I really struggled to say, okay, keep this number of employees who are working, let go of these ones who are not working. And then beyond that, we had a lot of other additional expenses. For example, we had lunch in the office. Of course, there was always tea, snacks. We were those kind of offices that also have games. I don't know, we had drafts. We had couches you could sleep in. And there was always that advantage of, people would take advantage of that. So instead of working, you find them on YouTube. Internet was not restricted. You could do whatever you want. And on the other hand, I am struggling. I am depressed. I'm even struggling to come to the office because I have all these bills. They're piling up. I'm the one getting the heat for it. But my employees are, living the life. I don't know if any of you has had those experiences, and maybe you might want to put it in the comments. Just give us your experience with running that kind of show, where like you feel like you're the only one drowning in your business, but everyone else seems to be having a good time. If you have experienced that, please share it with us in the comments, so that we can cry together and we figure out what is the solution for it. So yeah, So if you're consistently putting your employees' comfort above the business's health, then you're in trouble. For example, if you really need to cut down, like where we are at, especially like in Kenya right now, we are struggling to make ends meet, all businesses. And from my sources, from what the Finance Act, this one for 2025, what it's about to bring in terms of taxation, we need to brace ourselves for tough times. We really need to tie our belts, cut our expenses as much as possible, because it's going to get rough. This is not the time to be adding unnecessary things in the office. If you're already providing tea, kudos, but this is not the time to start buying people cake. People need to cut down the expenses as much as possible. And also we need to separate between being a supportive leader, an empathetic leader, and being an employee pleaser. You will find, especially with the latter, you find the employees who are closer to the boss tend to get more perks than the ones who are not. And sometimes it's just a personality issue, but when it's, how do I put it? It's if you find yourself being kinder to those ones who are nicer to you, then you're not being fair. Because how you treat an employee should be across board. If there are benefits to be given, it should be across board. It should be based on performance, not based on how nice an employee is to you or what dish they give you in terms of telling you what other people are doing in the organization and all that. So why do we find ourselves here as employers? I don't know. Let me start by saying perhaps it's because we spend so much time in our businesses that it becomes our life. And it's hard to spend the whole day in a space where you're not liked. And I don't know if anyone resonates with that. It's hard to spend 8 hours, 10 hours a day in a space you're not liked. Whether or not you're in control, it's your business, you're in charge. We are still human. It's hard to spend a lot of time in a space you're not liked. So we tend to people please. Already you have authority over these people. So they will already come with that. There's a space they give you. And because you're spending so much time with these people, you try and want to bring them closer to you. But you still have to remember, like the way we tell employees anywhere, that people you go to work to are not your friends. These are your colleagues. Find friends elsewhere. Because when you try and create those kind of communities at work, this is how office politics start. And then it creates a toxic environment. Same with the employer. If you start being close to the particular employees, it creates the environment for toxicity. So one, if you have the fear of being disliked as a leader, then this is something you will need to deal with. If two, you have the guilt of being a boss. I have one of my team members, and I know she will be upset about this, but she's the most difficult person to promote. She doesn't like being above other people. So there are people who do struggle with authority, not struggling with the authority coming above, but being in authority because they don't want to not be one of the guys, So if you struggle with that as an individual, that's something you will need to have therapy for, because you need to have that authority over your team. So those are things you really need to look at. If you have insecurity about leadership, or you have this thing of I want to create a family, or we are a family here, you will continuously struggle. I have one of my clients who gets so frustrated. Anyway, someone has stolen something from the store. They get so deeply hurt because how can they do that? And they are a part of our family, How can they? It's not even the fact that they got robbed. It's more emotional that, I've placed so much trust in this person. I have built a connection with this person. How could they steal from me? Then they end up mistreating everybody else because they placed too much trust on one employee or a particular employee. So this idea of let's create a family is not good for your business either, and it's not good for you, and it creates a toxic environment. So I'm not saying let's not be civil or let's not be friendly. But let's not try and create relationships that are not necessary in the workplace. So figure out if you're the kind of employer who does that, then stop it immediately. Let everyone have a cordial relationship, but a work relationship at best. All right, so what are the consequences? I know I could be talking like this and you're thinking, what could it hurt? I mean, why would you say that you shouldn't have a family at work? Number one, it becomes more difficult to manage performance. If you have employees who feel like they're your brother, your sister, it becomes very tough to tell them you're not doing your job. I expect this from you, you're not doing your job. I asked you for a report, you haven't sent it. I gave you a work schedule, you're not following it. It just becomes that much difficult if you have a buddy-buddy relationship with your team. Number two, if it goes beyond the buddy-buddy relationship, it becomes tough to turn that into a tough conversation. The employee becomes entitled. They're like, okay, but we were hanging out with you. So for example, and I know this happens a lot, you take your team out for dinner. Dinner becomes drinks. Then it becomes a night out. Then, because it's your business, you are out with them. And then the next morning, because it's your business, you are up early and your team is still struggling with a hangover. So they come at 9, 10 o'clock. And they're not understanding why you're upset. But we were together last night. What has changed? Who is this person I'm finding in the office? It becomes difficult to have those conversations again. Get? So it's important that you draw boundaries so that you're able to come back as the boss. If you have a night out with the team, buy the drinks, leave. Make sure you're not present there because it becomes difficult, very difficult to manage that relationship the next day. Now, if the relationship in the office is determined by how close somebody is with you, the ones who are high performers but don't tend to be friendly with you will struggle because they'll feel that I have to play office politics to get in with the boss. So they'll be like, okay, there's no point. Say for example, if they're not sanguines or they're not out there, they're not very friendly, or even their personalities don't just gel with yours, they will not feel motivated to work because they're like, okay, so nifanye kazi. Sorry, I'm going to speak in Swahili for those who don't know, who don't speak Swahili. Nifanye kazi alafu bado niende ku please my boss. It won't work for them. They need to know that my work will speak for itself. It doesn't matter how close I am with the boss. They will see my performance. So it will bring a strain with that. So performance will fall because of that. So there needs to be a separation. And leadership is very cold. I mean, it's a very cold and lonely space, but you need to embrace it and find love elsewhere. Don't try and find it in your business. There'll be an erosion of standards. You want this culture of, this is how we deliver things for our customers, this is how we do things for our colleagues, but then there are those people who will get favors from you because I'm friends with the boss. It dilutes the standards you put in, it dilutes the processes, it dilutes just the whole relationship. Just keep away from it. I don't think it's something you want to delve into. And all this will culminate in a reduction in performance. It will become difficult to run your organization and it will affect your bottom line. I hope you're able to hear me because I'm really struggling to put out my voice. I'm not feeling so well, but I hope you're able to hear me. And if you have any questions, please use the comment section, ask, DM us if you're shy. We will get in touch or we will respond during this live session. So one of the questions we received when we decided we're going to have this session is, I had to let someone go after months of underperformance. But the whole team turned cold on me. They said I didn't give him enough chances. Truth is, I did, but in trying to be kind, I stayed quiet too long. Does trying to be liked as a leader cost you respect in the long run? The truth is, you probably give too many chances. It needs to be very, very clear that these are the rules for this organization. If you do this 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you're gone. Doesn't matter how buddy we are as colleagues, doesn't matter how close we are, doesn't matter even if we are related. If you do this in this organization, you will go. If that is not clear enough, and then you give too many chances, then people will start expecting those chances. So chances are you took too long to make the decision to let them go. But if it was clear for everybody that it doesn't matter who you are, if you mess up 3 times, you're gone, then, even the law allows you to allow someone 1 time, 2 times, that time they tell you leave. The law tells you, the Employment Act tells you can give someone up to 3 chances. If the law tells you can let them go, why are you giving them 16 chances? It makes no sense, okay? So if you make it clear in an organization that if you mess up 1 time, 2 times, the 3rd time you're gone, then it becomes clear. Then no one expects you to give 15 chances. All right? Let me read another question. So as a founder, I always wanted to be the good boss, the one who listens, understands, and supports. But lately I find myself hesitating to make hard calls because I don't want to come off as uncaring or corporate or mean. How do you lead with empathy without becoming emotionally handcuffed? I think let's understand what a good boss is. And maybe you can share with me what is your understanding of what a good boss is. I think if you were to ask an employee what a good boss is, you will find that 1, they will ask for somebody who clearly states what the job role looks like, the one who will communicate their expectations clearly, one who will pay fairly, and one who will recognize achievement when it is there. I think those are the most important things for an employee. And if I have missed anything out and you're an employee somewhere, please comment in the comment section. But I feel like employees want fairness, they want clear communication, they want recognition, and they want to be paid fairly. So I think those are the components of a good boss. A good boss is not someone who's particularly empathetic or particularly sweet, or you're bringing cupcakes to the office and all that. You can bring all the cupcakes you want to the office, but you can still end up being unfair to your employee. I think understanding fairness and understanding what a good boss is where you start first, so that you understand what your employee needs. If you're doing your own things, already you're a bad boss. It doesn't matter how sweet you are and how many cakes you bring to the office. All right. So what does balanced leadership look like? So 1, you're empathetic but firm. Everyone understands that a boss is running an organization. Whether you're a manager, whether you're an employer yourself, everyone understands that there has to be boundaries when it comes to leadership. That leadership is where, yes, you're guiding people the right way, but you're stopping bad things from happening. So, for example, if an employee comes and tells you, my nanny didn't come in on time, she had gone on her off, and I had to wait until she comes, I couldn't have left my baby alone. It would be crazy for you as an employer to punish them for something like that. Especially if they had communicated earlier that they would be late, and if they come with a plausible explanation. However, if this same employee uses this excuse 3-4 times in, say, a very short period of time, then now you start to question and say, you know what, there will still be consequences for your actions. That means there's lack of preparedness on your part, or there's just something wrong, and there's something you're not doing at your home that is not allowing you to leave for work on time. I believe the sign of a good employee is that they're able to communicate the issue prior to you asking. So if this is someone who's supposed to report to work at 8, by 7, they've already let you know that I'm going to be late for work, this is what is happening. Then they will come to you and tell you, listen, for the next 1 week, I don't have a nanny. I'll have to drop my child to daycare. I will need to be coming in at 9. I will leave at 6, or you will allow me to leave at 5. I'll work on Saturday, etc. Work out a plan with you so that they're able to cover up for the time lost. Or figure out how a work from home arrangement. An employee who respects you enough to tell you ahead of time is an employee you should keep. But an employee who you have to chase and call all the time, and they're not coming to work on time, and they're not being responsive, regardless of the reason they're giving you, is not an employee you should be keeping. So you should be fair, be empathetic, but be firm. Number 2, you have to create clear expectations. This is something I have struggled with as well. Telling an employee, here is your JD, and then tuonane, let's see each other later, and then expecting them to do miracles is crazy. Let me say it's crazy. Why? Because you've not given them your expectation. The JD is just a description of the role that they're going to carry. You've not set clear key performance indicators. How does this employee understand that I have done my job well? Does this employee have clear standard operating procedures on how to do their job well? Because listen, you could hire a cleaner, for example. Say you are a restaurant, you hire a cleaner. This is the process for cleaning in your organization. These are the detergents that you need. These are the mops that I expect you to use. This is the amount of water I expect you to use. This is the equipment. This person probably has been working, say, at Java. So you're expecting they already know how to handle their role. But the detergent they're using there and the detergent you're using is different. You've not given them the mixing process or the formula for mixing soap versus water. You've not told them how to store. You've not told them anything. But then when they come and they've overused the detergent, you come and yell at them. But you've not made it very clear to them that this is how I expect you to do your work. So it still falls under you to define everything for them, that this is your job. This is how I expect you to deliver your job, and this is how I will measure success. This is how we'll know you've done a good job. This is how often we shall measure. It's very important for you as an employer or as a manager to make it very clear to employees how you want your job done, the way it needs to be done, and how you will measure success. Number 3, use data where possible. Let's go back to the cleaner example. If you've been to any good restaurant, if you go to the toilet, there's always a sheet hanging there with it's a checklist of who has been cleaning, what time they cleaned, and what they cleaned. Any good restaurant will use data, or any good organization will use data to ensure that work is done correctly. So they're collecting information on how many times that person has cleaned, how many times they've cleaned correctly, how many times they have cleaned everything they were supposed to clean, and then they've used that to measure performance for that individual. If you're using what we call subjective methods, you feel like, I like this person, I think they've done well, they're nice to me, I think I'll give them a raise. I don't want them to go. Or this one, they're always at loggerheads with everybody else. I don't know if I want to promote them, but they do a good job. If that is how you're doing performance assessment in your organization, you're going to fail. You're going to lose good people, and you're going to keep the ones you don't want to keep. So it's important that you use data so that you're able to measure performance correctly, so that you're not being that kind of boss who is thinking, I want to do this for this person, but they're not doing such a good job at the office. So for example, someone is really good with things that are outside the office. They're able to tell your mood. Say for example, you fought with your spouse. You've come to the office, you're in a really bad mood, and you have work that needs to be done. And there's this particular employee who will be like, hey, boss is not doing so well today. So they come and bring you what you like. They brought you hot chocolate, etc. They're like, boss, what do you need? But you know this person is struggling with the performance. Then you're feeling like, okay, they really take care of me on things that are non-office. I struggle with making sure that they're doing their job. Gift that person outside of the office for what they do. Buy them whatever they need, like get them flowers, whatever, outside of the office. But ensure that work is still measured correctly. Make sure you're not taking those things as part of performance evaluation. Anything that is personal for you is personal for you. Remember, your business is its own personal identity, it's its own person. The business, if it were talking, it would not give the same review as you. So that is important for you to remember. Okay? Now, always prioritize the health of the business, not yours. Not how you feel, not how, the work is going, not, it doesn't matter, all these things. What you're thinking about is the health of the business. Are we making enough money? Are we controlling our expenses? Are we making a profit? Do we have money? Do we have liquidity to ensure that the business is running? Those are the things that should be bothering your head. Not, I really like this person, or I don't know this person, I'm afraid to fire them, I'm afraid of upsetting the people who work here. Remember, they could all leave you and you'd be left alone, and you'd have to still hire other people and run the business. So it's not personal. When you have to downsize, especially in tough economic times, if you have to downsize, make that decision. You'll be hated, yes. Will you survive? Yes. You will not die. But will the business succeed, or will the business survive during difficult times? That should be your number one concern as an employer. All right, so I'll read another question here. I kept hearing that great companies feel like family, so I leaned into that. Open door policy, team hangouts, always being available. But now I'm struggling to draw lines. When I try to give feedback or enforce standards, it feels like betrayal. Can a family vibe quietly kill accountability? I think I've already explained all that. Let me caution you. There's a lot of information out there. Oh my goodness, we're living in the age of information transfer. Like, everyone is on TikTok, everyone is on Instagram, everyone is a motivational speaker, everyone knows a thing or two about everything. Don't risk your business trying to create an environment that you cannot sustain. If people are doing their job, you won't keep them by making them feel like they're part of a family. I have never had, and I've been in recruitment for 14 years, 15 years. I have never had an employee, because we headhunt, I've never had an employee tell me, you know where I am, it's like a family. I can't leave my job. Nope. Employees will leave you for money. They will leave you for better opportunities. They will leave a toxic environment, obviously. It's not, if it doesn't mean that because your office is not, or your business is not a family environment, that it has to be toxic. If people respect each other and they're doing their job, I think that is enough. You don't have to go overboard trying to create a family dynamic, yet you have your own family to deal with at home. Let people go and have family outside there. Let them come and work and deliver what they need to, and let them go home, right? You can be nice. That doesn't mean you harsh to everybody, but it draw lines and create boundaries around that, so that you're not getting in trouble trying to make everyone happy. All right, let me read the last question before we conclude. One of my top performers is sharp, driven, and brutally honest. But they've clashed with a few team members who think their tone is too harsh. HR says I need to protect psychological safety, but this person is delivering real results. I'm torn. Do I risk losing performance to preserve peace, or there is a smarter middle ground? I think for me this is an interesting question, because I've had that. I had a recruitment manager who never got along with anybody else. Oh, she was a performer. That girl could deliver for 11, 12 clients. She had like 30 roles that she was handling. The rest of the team is handling like 24. The entire rest of the team. But she never, she hit someone, threw them down the stairs. Oh my God. I had a police case because she got so angry. She picked one of the other staff and slapped them and threw them down the stairs. And Now I had that challenge of, okay, do I keep this person? What's happening? Like, okay, no one can deliver the way she's delivering. However, it got to a point where she even led a revolution, and I think thankfully God just removed her from the organization, and it became way easier to run the company after that. But I think you need to draw a line between the delivery in terms of the revenue that person is able to bring in versus the detriment of her behavior or his behavior. If the person is so toxic that everybody else cannot work, then you're actually running losses because of that person. So you're bringing in money that you have to pay out, or you're not being able to be efficient, so because you're still paying these other guys salaries, but they're not working because they have this individual who's stressing them at work. So always do the cost benefit analysis of keeping them there. They could be a performer, but you might be better settling on someone who's slightly less performing, but their office environment is conducive for everybody to deliver their results. Remember, you're not just hiring that one person, you have other team members who also need to perform. Alternatively, if they're that important, let everybody else go. Is that possible? You know the organization, so you'll be able to tell us. So it's important to think about things like that. Think about, okay, if I keep this person, will everyone else be able to work? If not, let the person go. You will find somebody else like that. Maybe not as good as them, but somewhere in the middle you'll be able to find. Because remember, your organization is not based on that one person. What if they collapsed and died? Will you not run your organization? I bet you will. So it's important to think about balance. It shouldn't be about that one great person who does everything. And probably they know the reason why, they're handling their business the way they are. It's because they know no one else wants them, right? So what is the final takeaways for this? Being liked is not leadership. Being respected is. You want to be able to be respected so that you're able to give instruction. If you have people who don't respect you in your business, let them go. Let them find another environment where they can deliver. Number 2, your job is to protect your business. Period. You're supposed to ensure your business is a going concern. Yes, we treat people fairly, but remember, at the end of the day, you're there to make money, you're there to run that business. Your business is your priority. Make sure you have healthy boundaries, because healthy boundaries give you a healthy business with an empowered team. A team that knows what it's supposed to be doing, what is right and what is wrong, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And then do not trade a long-term business for short-term approval. If you're always craving for that, oh, you're such a nice boss thing, you're going to run your business down. So ensure that you're building a business that is sustainable for the long run, and then you will find things will start falling in place. So I hope you've learned a thing or two. Comment or DM if you see this after the live. Comment or DM. We hope to see you here next Friday for the next live. We'll be sharing the poster soon. And thank you so much for joining us. The team here at Janta is so happy that you've joined us today, and we really enjoy having you around. Karibu sana, and see you next time. Bye bye.